While Donald Trump continues to cancel events and run away from tough interviews, Kamala Harris is out on the campaign trail, trying to get her message out to as many Americans as possible. But if you end up getting anything out of this video, please remember to hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to make it to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I would very much appreciate your support. Now, I think it's important that we all remember there was supposed to be another presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump hosted on CNN. But because Donald Trump is the petulant child that he is, he dropped out of that debate once he got crushed in the first one. So instead of doing that debate, CNN opened up their doors to hold a town hall for Kamala Harris. And it should also be noted that they offered a town hall for Donald Trump, but he blew that off as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few clips from this town hall with Kamala Harris. I just wanted to point out a couple different things that stood out to me that I think will make Kamala Harris a good president.
You've quoted General Milley calling Donald Trump a fascist. You yourself have not used that word to describe him. Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I also believe that the people who know him best on this subject should be trusted. Again, look at their careers. These are not people, with the exception, I think, of only Mike Pence. These were not politicians. These are career people who have served in the highest roles in national security.
Now, I absolutely love that she just came out and unequivocally stated that Donald Trump is a fascist, because I think we should be calling things how we see things. Donald Trump has been threatening revenge and retribution his entire campaign. And when it comes to the people that have worked most closely with him, they are warning the American people that he is unfit for office and that he is fascist to the core. So we should definitely heed their warning, and I am so glad that Kamala Harris came out and actually said it, because I think there are so many politicians out there that are so hesitant to actually throw this word around. But like I said, if the fascist shoe fits, then the fascist must wear it. So I'm glad she said it. We need to call things out as we see them, and Donald Trump truly does fit the definition of a fascist. But let's go ahead and move on to one of the questions that's been getting a lot of play in this campaign, and that is how Kamala Harris has flip-flopped on a couple of positions. So let's see how she was able to handle that.
Can you talk a little bit about how your positions have shifted and why?
Sure, and thank you. So first of all, on fracking, I've been very clear. We kind of dispensed with this in 2020. I am not going to ban fracking. I did not as vice president. In fact, as vice president, I cast the tie-breaking vote that now has opened up more fracking leases. My value on the issue of what we need to do to invest in a clean energy economy and a clean energy future has not changed. But frankly, I now have the experience and perspective of having been vice president for almost 4 years. I've traveled the country.
So I think we can all admit that when we are presented with new information or a new set of facts, the way that we handle certain things might change. And unfortunately, in today's political landscape, if a politician does that, they just get branded a flip-flopper and thrown under the bus. But I think we should be applauding this type of rationale. If Kamala Harris has new experiences, or is presented with new information, or has a new set of facts, I want her opinion to update based on that new information. This is a good quality to have. Now, of course, these decisions to update your opinion need to be based on facts, and they need to be based on information related to the topic at hand. But it is important when you can maybe even acknowledge that you are wrong and update the way that you look at certain topics or issues. So I am glad that Kamala Harris was able to come out and admit this, and I think it is a good quality that we should applaud in our politicians when they are updating their reasoning based on new factual information. Let's go ahead and move on to Kamala Harris, talking about how important it is to build consensus because she will be working for all Americans.
Our country deserves to have a president of the United States who is not afraid of good ideas and does not stand on pride. If a perspective needs to be informed by different points of view to build consensus and to have a common sense approach, I'm never going to shy away from good ideas. And I'm not going to feel the need to have pride associate with a position that I've taken when the important thing is to build consensus to fix problems. I believe in fixing problems. I love fixing problems. And so I pledge to you to be a president who not only works for all Americans, but works on getting stuff done. And that means compromise. And it doesn't mean compromising your values or your principles, but it does mean working to get stuff done.
Now, I think we could all agree that we need a president that is going to be looking out for all Americans. But more importantly, we need a president that understands that bipartisan consensus is important. At any given time, you could have half of the country or more disagree with you on a particular issue. And that means that you need to listen to their perspectives and their ideas before drawing any conclusions. That's how our government works. Both sides need to come together and legislate based on this bipartisan consensus, because that's how we benefit more Americans. And we can all agree that we don't want Kamala Harris getting into office and just pushing things through by dictate. We don't want Trump to get in there and do that either. We want a president that understands the importance of bipartisanship and somebody who understands that a consensus between both sides is needed to benefit most Americans. So, again, this is another quality that a good president should have, and it's good that Kamala Harris is just coming out and voicing that and letting the American people know that this is the type of president that she will strive to be. Let's go to move on to probably the best answer that I thought that Kamala Harris gave all night. And she is trying to draw the stark contrast between her and Donald Trump, where Kamala Harris is going to be solving problems while Donald Trump seeks revenge. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
You can be sure, because he has said he would weaponize the Department of Justice to go after his political enemies, that you can look at a Donald Trump in the White House after January 20th, sitting in that Oval Office, plotting his revenge. He has talked about the enemies within. We haven't even raised that subject, Anderson. The enemies within. He's talking about the American people. He's talking about journalists, judges, nonpartisan election officials. He has talked about, as John Kelly has talked about, can he send the military after peaceful protesters? And he's going to sit there unstable, unhinged, plotting his revenge, plotting his retribution, creating an enemies list. I'm going to tell you, my list will be a list of how I address and continue to address the issues that you all are raising this afternoon and evening. It will be a to-do list about how we can impact the American people and lift up the American people and address some of the challenges that we continue to face.
Now, I really like the way that she answered this question. She is saying that Donald Trump would get in there and make up enemies lists, and I'll get in there and make to-do lists. This is the perfect dichotomy to draw here, because Donald Trump has made it a staple of his campaign to seek revenge and retribution. He talks about the enemy from within and how he wants to use the United States military to go after those enemies. And he even drops names like Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi when he's talking about this stuff. He has talked about taking broadcast license away from TV stations that he doesn't like. He has talked about putting journalists in jail. He has talked about holding public military tribunals and putting people like Liz Cheney behind bars. So it is important that the American people know that Donald Trump would seek revenge and retribution. And on the other hand, you have Kamala Harris, who wants to solve problems for the American people. Not once have I heard Kamala Harris talk about how she wants to punish her political opponents or perceived enemies. That is just not even in her vocabulary. But it is important that the American people know that that is what Donald Trump wants to do. And I think that's exactly why she started this conversation by coming out and unequivocally stating that Donald Trump is a fascist. And these are the types of behaviors that make him a fascist. So, really, really liked this answer, and I really liked the language that she used here to set up that stark contrast between these two candidates. And I'll show you one last video. I really think that this is important for all presidents. She's talking about the spirit of America and working for all Americans and how America is actually something special.
And I do believe that the American people deserve a president who's going to be hardworking and, will make mistakes from time to time, but it's focused on you. And I think that is so fundamental in this election. So fundamental. You deserve a president. I believe the American people deserve a president who's saying, look, let's just be practical. Let's get things done. And let's not be afraid of having a little joy to the point of, what makes you feel good about your work. Let's do it in a way that is grounded in optimism. The thing that I think we all know about who we are as the American people, we are people who are ambitious. We have aspirations. We have dreams. We are inherently optimistic. Inherently optimistic. And I think people are exhausted with the idea that we're just going to be divided and angry instead of working on the problems and working together. And that's what motivates me, and that's what makes me proud when we're able to do that.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but I want a president that recognizes that the United States is something special. And it is the people within the United States that make it special. And like she was saying, we are inherently optimistic. We are ambitious. There is just a secret sauce in America that really doesn't exist in a lot of other countries. And I want a president that recognizes that and wants to fight for that. Having presidents that make this a core part of who they are and the type of president they'll be is why America has been so great. And I think Kamala Harris will be the person who is going to fight to make it even greater, while recognizing we have problems, addressing those problems, but moving forward in a way that benefits all Americans. And I think she has proved to us in this town hall alone that she understands how to do that. She talked about making sure she's working in a bipartisan way, building consensus, working for all Americans, even admitting when you make mistakes. So I think Kamala Harris, with this town hall, did a really good job of helping the American people understand the type of president she could be. Obviously, every appearance have areas of improvement. Maybe she could have answered certain questions better or in a different way. But overall, I think she did a good job of drawing the stark contrast between her and Donald Trump. While Donald Trump wants to seek revenge and retribution, Kamala Harris wants to make to-do lists to get things done for the American people. And I thought that shined through this evening, so I'll leave it there. If you guys got anything out of this video, please remember to smash that like button and subscribe. maybe share it with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. Like I said, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I would very much appreciate your support. If you want to see a different interview with Kamala Harris where she is pressed on whether or not she would pardon Donald Trump, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.